Good morning and welcome to the Core Connection. I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network. And today's topic is shooting the messenger. When we get bad news or we get reflections about ourselves that may not have been invited or that we don't like, sometimes our response is to attack and shooting the messenger, in other words. And so today we get to talk about that mechanism and how we can instead transform the opportunity into an opportunity to experience greater awareness and freedom and all that great stuff. But before we get started, let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding into your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells, all your organs, bringing vital life energy to your body and being. And as you exhale, exhale any tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. This time, imagine brilliant bright light lighting you up from the inside out, illuminating, electrifying, energizing all your cells, all your molecules, all your electrons, and creating a brilliant beam of light from your heart out into the world. And as you exhale, exhale any remaining tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's just press our palms together and rub your palms together and feel the friction and the temperature and the pressure and the sensation, and allow that sensation to bring you present right here, right now, into this remarkable physical form that enables you to experience life. And good morning, welcome, shooting the messenger. So I was talking with a friend about an encounter that they had in business, where, you know, in the business of transformation, it can take many different appearances, but in the business of transformation, when we are pressed to be looking at aspects of self in different ways, not even in a way that's judgmental necessarily, but when we're being pressed to look at ourselves from a different perspective, or to challenge our beliefs, or to challenge, we've talked about this, challenging our beliefs or challenging our vision about something, it can feel very threatening to our identity, to our sense of who we believe ourselves to be, to challenging our values, to challenge us to reassess our values or our context. And all of those challenges can be very, very, very disruptive. And sometimes, rather than diving in and exploring those challenges and the potential disruption, sometimes what we might tend to do is to react and vilify the other person. You know, if you're, I've seen this happen a couple times where someone did something and I actually confronted them about it, and they turned it back around and as an attack on me when they were clearly wrong, and they knew that they were clearly wrong, but in order to preserve their notion of who they are, or their I don't know, their sense of self, whatever it might be, they tried to deflect responsibility for that thing by blaming me. And I imagine you probably have encountered that situation and maybe have been on both sides of it. I think it's likely that we have all at one time or another been on either side of that kind of dynamic. And it's interesting when we get to a space of greater presence. And by the way, if you guys are writing comments and I'm not responding, it's because I don't see the comments. So I know that we're live on Enlightened World Network's Facebook page. So if you want responses to your comments, please make sure that you're on that page or the Enlightened World Network YouTube channel. And I will respond to any comments that I see. So we're talking about the challenges of looking at ourselves. And then when we get to a place of greater wholeness, when we get to a place of being able to connect and receive, then when someone confronts us about something that we'd rather not see in ourselves or even in the world, perhaps, that we might have greater space to receive, to just be present with the other person. And even in their upset and or in their delivery of their perception. And when we can be present to it, then we have the option to respond rather than to react with a deflection, for example, by saying, you know, like, I'm not going to receive this, it's all on you. And that defense, that defensiveness that that has us pushing our insecurities outward and blaming another person so that we don't have to be accountable or responsible is a I think it's not an uncommon pattern culturally, where we fail to take responsibility for ourselves or for the impact that we create. And when we are balanced enough in self to be able to be accountable for our part, something magical happens in these kinds of encounters where in my ability to receive and take take my part, to be accountable for my part, then oftentimes it opens up the opportunity, or it opens up the other person to be able to be present as well. So it's interesting, this notion of what may be perceived as vulnerability, you know, receptivity, connectedness, when we are connected and we are receptive and we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, it often opens the opportunity and possibility for the other person to show themselves more honestly as well. So again, I haven't seen any comments. So if you are seeing this on any platform, if you're wanting to write comments, please go to the Enlightened World Network Facebook page or YouTube channel, and you can put your comments in there. So I'm so used to having comments from you guys that it's a little lonely here by myself today so far. Anyway, so shooting the messenger is kind of deflecting our responsibility for whatever that news or information is, or the truth of it. You know, maybe we don't want to hear bad news. So rather than hearing bad news or news that's challenging, or reflections on ourselves that we don't like, rather than attacking back, which is essentially what it is. You know, maybe it feels like an attack to be given information that you don't like. So rather than attacking back, what are other ways of being that are available to us? You know, what does it take to presence ourselves when we're feeling an attack? Oftentimes it's such a knee-jerk reaction that we don't even have time to consciously process. If we could have the grace in that moment to just take a breath, to slow things down, so that we might be able to have a greater access to our ability to respond rather than react, that could transform things pretty radically. But what does it take to remember to take that breath? What does it take to be able to slow the momentum of the moment enough that we can actually step back from it? It's like we need the awareness in order to get the awareness in the heat of the moment. I think we've been talking a lot about context lately, and the context of everything that life is happening for me and through me. If we are living in that context, if we are able to make that a consistently present lens for ourselves, and that's a big if. It takes practice, and it's not immutable. There are moments when we might fall out of that space. But if we practice, we can retrieve it more readily. But in that lens, or from that lens, through that lens, we give ourselves grace to step back and to breathe. We give ourselves grace to receive things in a different way, to recontextualize something that might feel like an attack, even to the point where we could speak, wow, that feels like an attack, rather than reacting to the attack to shoot the messenger kind of thing. And I think that this is very much a question of practice and reconditioning, repatterning our context and our behaviors. When we have a different context, our behaviors follow from that. And as we look at transformation, we as transformers do not exist in a vacuum. We exist in a context, and we perceive from a context. And most often that context is defined for us without our awareness. And when we start bringing awareness to the context through which, or the lens through which we engage with life and with the world, then we're empowering ourselves on a deeper level than if we look at individual behaviors. So for another example, when we are living within the context of purpose, when we have a purpose, that gives us a reference point that allows us, as we've said many times, it allows us to step beyond our own personal perceived limitations into something greater, a greater commitment that goes beyond our commitments to our own volatile emotion, that goes beyond. So what I'm thinking of is, if we have a greater intention to transform, to grow, to evolve, then we can recognize certain behaviors or patterns and have the will to move beyond them, to get back up, brush ourselves off, and try again. And that larger commitment, when we are called to be something more than we imagine or believe ourselves to be, is the evolutionary catalyst that keeps us moving forward, that keeps our willingness to confront challenge and to move beyond the stumbles, right? That it's not about the failures, because there isn't failure. There's just messy progress. It's really interesting. I had such a wonderful conversation yesterday about navigating difficult situations. And this is also kind of a shoot the messenger conversation, but navigating difficult social situations, and how culturally we've in so many ways been conditioned to keep secrets, to hide ourselves, to present a good face, to try to curate our, oh, finally somebody showed up. Gia, so good to have you here this morning. So good to know that somebody's seeing this and hearing this. I'm delighted. Thank you. We're talking about shooting the messenger. And so I was just talking about an extraordinary and powerful conversation I had with someone about radical honesty, and how in our culture we're not conditioned to really being honest about how we feel and how we think. And I don't mean honest like by necessarily spouting our opinions about how people are. Gia says, I'm here with you as always. It's fun, and I look forward to meeting you here. I look forward to you meeting me here too, Gia. I look forward to meeting everybody here. It's awesome. So this notion of radical honesty means, instead of holding resentments, that we get to create a space where we can communicate those things, instead of just eliminating people from our lives. We get to create a safe space, to create a space where, and maybe a methodology through which we can express what's true for us. And it means rising above the name calling and finger pointing. I'm not talking about that kind of truth. I'm not talking about my truth is that you're this, that, and the other thing. That's not what I'm talking about. But to be in relationships, what happens is we often don't give space for ourselves or the other to speak what's so for them. And rather than confront a situation, or rather than address a situation, which feels more gentle than confrontation anyway, rather than addressing a situation, we'll also often just stay silent. And there's this conspiracy of silence that, especially in groups that can become very very enmeshed with each other, that the silence is felt. You know, that whatever the undercurrent is of the discontent is felt and unspoken. It becomes a cancer in that environment, because it is felt, and without addressing it, without bringing it to light, it sucks all the energy out of the room, and it undermines trust. The challenge is how to do that, how to address these very sticky social dynamics in families, in workplaces, among friends, how to address these very sticky dynamics in ways that are respectful and principled. How do we work through it? What kinds of agreements can we make? And these conversations, this is an important conversation for how do we move forward into becoming the new humans that we envision as possible. You know, how do we do that when we have these really toxic patterns of social dynamics? We get to redefine that. And it's very messy. It's messy. Transformation is messy because we don't know how to move into uncharted territories. So Gia says, yes, Mira, we are conditioned to give silent treatment, and it feels so intimidating at times to even talk about things that are killing us inside. Exactly, Gia. And funny part is we can talk about it to everyone else except for that person. And that's really part of our toxicity, is that we talk about things we talk about people behind their backs. We talk about things, dynamics with people without addressing those dynamics with the people directly. And a big part of this is that we don't know how. We don't know how to address things in a way that we can create a safe space. And we don't know, we're afraid of rejection. We're afraid that we'll be attacked, or I mean, I've tried to do that with some people in my life and have been attacked, and there's just no opening. And at that point, when there's no opening, what do? You know, you can't force an opening when there isn't one. You can't force someone to, nor would you want to force someone to confront something or address something with you that they don't have the internal resilience or will to address. And it can be heartbreaking. And that's often the kind of situation where shoot the messenger comes in, where you try to address something with someone and they just attack because it's threatening, because they don't want to, either they don't want to engage at that intimate level, or they don't want to see themselves, or they're holding resentments that they don't want to be forced to or pushed to expose. So Gia says, I believe it should come from our conditioning that we couldn't talk so and so to our parents, teachers, grandparents under the roof of so-called respect, and the trauma we would have gone through when we opened up, maybe in our childhood, and we still carry it. I think you're right, Gia, is being told to be quiet and that our opinions don't matter, our perspectives don't matter, our feelings, keep it to yourself, don't be so emotional, all kinds of messaging that we've had, and also don't be disrespectful. So we've been taught that speaking our truth might be disrespectful. Good morning, Rosalind. Welcome. So good to have you here this morning. What we need to learn is we need to create a new container, a new context for how we can respectfully communicate our feelings, our emotions, our responses, our observations, how we can treat one another with greater compassion, love, and respect. So with that, that's it for this morning. And I so appreciate that you guys showed up. I can't even tell you. That's it for today. I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection. Hi, Dido. Welcome. So glad you were here too. And I go live here on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page and YouTube channel every weekday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern. And I invite you to please check out the other awesome programming on Enlightened World Network, EWN One with the Earth, Enlightened World Living. And until next time, so much gratitude and appreciation and so much love to you. Hope to see you again here really soon.